Hello and welcome to Hoop Collective Podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Sunday evening, just after the All-Star game. Joining us from Naples, Florida, where he's finally gone home after weeks on end in LA, is Bobby Marks.
Gentlemen, I am home. A 2-week journey out to Los Angeles on a double red eye getting home today, and I am home.
A double red eye?
Well, leave at midnight, connect in Houston, then connect to go to Fort Myers. So, something else.
Yeah. You didn't go to Ryan Smith's All-Star party?
You know what? I had somebody tell me that I am the new mayor of Salt Lake City. So no, I am not. But I was at a breakfast Saturday morning, and I had a gentleman come up to me and ask me if I traveled with security on when I'm on the road, and I said, are we really at that stage of what's going on right now?
Oh my gosh. Bobby had a little back and forth with the Utah Jazz.
Well, he really had he really had a back and forth. I had a back and forth with somebody else, not with him. Right. I just let him speak his mind.
Well, maybe this is really well known, but I didn't know it till today when I was actually watching the end of the Pebble Beach, the AT&T Pebble Beach event. Is that Ryan Smith has a beautiful home right on the 18th green, or right on the 18th fairway or whatever at Pebble Beach. So he probably was there. I don't know if I would have been there. Anyway, I like Ryan, but everybody has to do what they have to do when they're.
What I've learned, there are certain words that touch a nerve.
That's right. Just because they're yelling at you doesn't mean that you're wrong. Joining us from Los Angeles, where he somehow got out of Intuit Dome in the wake of that game and made his way to his hotel before joining us, is Vince Goodwill.
I've been getting bagged on by your YouTube people for not having like a hello friends sort of greeting or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're like,
that's what Jim Nance.
The Tims have a saying or whatever, and I'm like, I'm just a black guy that just comes on and says hello.
That should be the new thing. That's what Jim Nance does on.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Augusta National. I'm going to let you guys know I'm getting sick. I have a preposterously tightly scheduled week with a lot of appearances, some of which are one-offs, like a speech I have Thursday in Akron, Ohio, and a charity event that I have Wednesday night. And there's never a good time to get sick, but you can hear in my voice. I feel like when I listen back to this podcast, like on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to be like, oh man, that was back when my voice was good, because I think it's going to be gone. So we'll enjoy it while it's here. Anyway.
You're giving us the best of what you got. That's what you're doing.
We're limping through. Vince, I feel like this all-star situation was like stumbling around in the desert for years and stumbling on into Miami. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, Miami is an imperfect paradise, but it is in many ways a paradise. This game was imperfect, but being delivered from the horrible hellscape that the last several All-Star games have been. And so therefore it must be declared a success. That's my viewpoint. I don't know how you felt about it being there.
I thought it was a massive success. I think, speaking of being yelled at by Twitter, I've been yelled at by Twitter over the past couple of days because I said the quality of the All-Star game has gotten progressively worse over the past 5 or 6 years, as if that's some type of newsflash. And what I did say on First Take with my good friend Stephen A. Smith was that all it takes is one maniac, just one crazy person to up the tempo, to up the care factor. And that person was Victor Wembanyama. You want to know why? That man basically threatened to embarrass everybody tonight by blocking their shots, by doing all this other stuff. And it shamed Anthony Edwards and some of those other guys into playing a lot harder. And I for one, got to give him a round of applause. Because yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, Wendy. You might have been.
I sure did.
And I thought it was kind of indicative.
He said it is what it is, right? Is that what he said? At this point, basically, it is what it is?
Yep. He said it is what he basically said is not going to change.
Right.
And then Victor Wembanyama goes out there and starts blocking a couple of shots. Maybe one was a goaltend. And it starts getting everybody's competitive juices going. Like you saw guys breaking a sweat. And I think, Bobby, you can agree with me on this one. Nobody wants anybody to get hurt. Nobody wants anyone acting as if this is game 7 of the NBA Finals or a high-level playoff game or a high-level regular season game. Just want guys to try. And they actually tried and they actually cared. And I don't care if the last game was a blowout, that the old guys got blown out by the young guys. I thought it was kind of fitting. You got 3 good games out of 4. You had 36 competitive minutes. A round of applause for the NBA. Bravo.
You know what? When Jackson, our producer, asked me to come on, I thought, oh boy, we're going to be talking. We're going to be griping. We're going to be talking. And then I sit in my chair in the first minute of the first game, and here comes Victor, block a shot, have a dunk. And I said, I think we might have something here a little bit. And as you said, that set the tone. It's unfortunate. I know we're not putting asterisks next to teams in this little mini tournament here. It's unfortunate that the international team basically ran out of bodies here. When you look at Luka and then you look at Jokic as far as where they were. But what Victor did, and I give credit to all the All-Stars did, was it made us watch for 2 or 2.5 hours. I went out and got something to eat. And you know what I did? I put on the game while I was eating. I wouldn't have done that in the past here. And yes, when we got to the last game, guys ran out of gas. I mean, that is the reality of it. I think that team, LeBron's team had played, was that their 3rd game in a row they had played?
Yeah, they played 3 in a row.
But I saw guys that I had never seen. They had showed, someone had posted a highlight of, I think Jason Tatum set the record of like 55 points in a prior All-Star. Someone was putting highlights on, I think Drew Hanlon, his trainer, put it on there. And Drew's a terrific person. And I was watching it. This was from 3 years ago. And I was like, oh my, I was like, that's why we were so up in arms about what was going on. And then I watched defense. I watched guys compete. I saw LeBron run back and try to block shots like it was like 2016 again. That's all we wanted. That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't planning on watching it. And then with Victor kind of threw the gauntlet down relatively. I mean, he didn't grab a megaphone, but he said he was planning on trying. And I knew that he was, the world team was the first team up. And so I said, yeah, all right, let me give it a chance. That's what I did. I don't know what the ratings will be. The game, the whole All-Star weekend was early. I know I saw people, saying, good job, NBA, having, the dunk contest at 5:00 or whatever, the 3-point contest at 5:00. That was not the NBA's decision. That was NBC. They had Winter Olympics are going on right now. That's, the Winter Olympics had never been a thing because on the same network. And so the NBC, gets, great ratings. They pay enormous amount of money for the Olympics. And, so they're going to put that in prime time. That's why it happened. It wasn't the NBA's call, but it's neither here nor there. But I don't know how many people would have given it a chance. We'll see what the ratings say. But I gave it a chance, and I watched the game be instantaneously competitive, and I stayed with it. And I was totally prepared to do this podcast tonight and not talk about the All-Star game. I was totally prepared to.
Oh, I heard. Listen, when I was driving back from the airport today, I listened to the most recent podcast. And you laid out the gauntlet of things you will not talk about. And one of them, I believe, was the All-Star, along with Jonathan Kuminga and tanking also. So I was wondering what we were going to be talking about here.
Yeah, well, we were not going to be talking about the All-Star game. But then, I thought Victor's quote after this game tonight, which I just, Victor is refreshing in so many ways. But he said, I think being honest with ourselves is good. It's a game we love. It's a game I personally cherish. So being competitive is the least I can do. I mean, no notes on that comment.
Yeah.
No notes. And, the thing about Victor is, he was furious that his team lost. They lost in overtime in the first game. It feels weird to say first game. I kept thinking to myself first quarter, but they lost in the first game in overtime with Ant having a huge overtime. And then the second game that they played, they lost to Kawhi, which I think is, we'll talk about that for a second here. But I will say that, obviously no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no Giannis. Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic played, but they only played 5 minutes and then they were done. Luka hadn't even played his last 4, I think, games with the Lakers. And Joker is still protecting that knee. So I appreciate that they went out there and played, but I'm also going to halt on anybody on Monday trying to say, well, I knew the world team wasn't good enough. The guys who were able went. I would say the same thing.
I have a suggestion, or maybe a conspiracy theory for you guys, Wendy. Do we think that there is some secret NBA American players chat, like text message thread that's going on between Ant and Kevin Durant and LeBron James? Because they've said
I'm not talking about secret Kevin Durant.
Excellent point. Excellent. Go do your own research. We'll say, go do your
own to comment on that
Twitter right now.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Down the rabbit hole earlier today.
Man, that's a whole, it's never ending. That's what we say. It's never ending. But KD, back to Kevin Durant's point of what he said when I think the Rockets played on Wednesday or whatever, and he said, you guys don't talk about Jokic and Luka, right? Stick that point there. Then LeBron, in his media session earlier today, because he has to do his own media session on All-Star Sunday, he says, I like East and West. I don't know about all this other stuff. And he kind of said it with a little bit of like a wink, right? And then in the post game, and it wasn't in the post game session with us, it was the post game session. I think he was on NBA TV with our colleague Chris Haynes, and he said something along the lines of, Luka and Jokic weren't out there bringing it, so we had an easier time. I wonder if the American NBA players maybe look at the public desire to have them humbled by international players as something that they took personally, or that there's a perception that the American players need to be humbled by the international guys. And I think they're asking why. Maybe that's a greater sociological question that's not necessarily fit for this podcast, but I do think I don't think these guys are saying things coincidentally.
Okay. I respect that. I would say, let's just for the sake of discussion say that that's true. I can't prove it, but it's reasonable. You say it's reasonable? Let's say 2 things. One, the international players have been dominating the awards. The big award, right? The MVP. So that's number one. So right out of that, the international players are coming at the NBA, the Americans, as who the best players are. Okay? That's number one. Number 2, isn't that classic? That's like what KD said was classic whataboutism, right? Like when you get in a corner in anything, I don't care if you're in second grade or if you're playing in the NBA, you get accused of something, you're in the corner, you're going to point and go, well, what about them? What about those guys? That's one thing I didn't like. Like Durant was correct that, Luka and Jokic were guilty as anybody else of giving BS effort in the last few All-Star games. I did not like that sentiment because it's like, don't blame us for not caring. They don't care either. Like that is not a defense. It's not an acceptable defense. And I will say that, Ann Edwards, after he won the MVP, the Kobe Bryant trophy, which by the way, a lot of times I feel like Kobe can help everybody out here by just being invoked. And let me just say this. If Kobe Bryant was at that press conference that KD said that, what would he have said? What would he have said?
He would have called out KD. He would have called out KD. KD is great at creating straw men. That's what I will say about Kevin. He is great. He has learned from LeBron at the school of creating the narrative that you can then shoot down with a very broad bullet. KD said, I watched all these All-Star games from decades before.
He said the 60s. He said I went back to the 60s.
He ain't watching All-Star games from the 60s.
Let's just take him at his word. Let's just take him at his word that he did.
And even if he did, right? And he says, this Game 7 defense that you guys were talking about, that wasn't being played. Kevin, nobody ever said that All-Star defense was at an NBA Finals level. Nobody, at least tell me if I'm wrong, nobody has ever said that. My colleague David Dennis, who I was on First Take with, they created this sort of sentiment that you guys are saying that the game was played at such a high level back then. Nobody has ever said that. All we said was, hey, just provide a little resistance. That's all.
What would Kobe say? WWKS. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I will say this. This performance tonight, does not clean up. I mean, first off, you guys know I cover international basketball, dragged my ass all over the planet, and it's been extraordinarily rewarding. I've loved it. And what I say is that the U.S. remains the basketball power, but the U.S. margin for error is now almost nil. You know, you gotta go around square corners and jump through round hoops. You know, you gotta run out the ground ball, however you want to say it. And this way this went down tonight, I'm not going to allow that because Giannis didn't play, SGA didn't play, and Jokic and Luka were not 100%. And they just sort of came out and waved their cap. But even still, because of the other international stud, Wemby, Ant said, Wemby made him do it. Wemby got him going, So, good job. Let's see it again. I don't even know where All-Star is next year. Phoenix.
The Wilbon All-Star game.
Oh, my God.
The Wilbon All-Star weekend.
You know what? I tried not to go to All-Star weekend, but when you put it that way, Wilbon's set up in Phoenix.
The compound. Aspirational. Wait, we can't use that word.
No.
God. Oh, man.
It is aspirational, though.
It's inspirational, aspirational. You can
Speaking
plant
of,
trees. You
that's
can plant trees.
Speaking of.
Yeah. So I got to say, I said this when the reserves came out, that there have been Supreme Court decisions that have leaked before being published more recently than there's been leaking of the voting from the coaches' All-Star vote. The coaches vote for the All-Star reserves. I've never gotten my hands, or even I've never seen anybody get their hands on it. I've never seen anybody even claim like, oh, you know what? Source told me that, player X got 3 more votes than player Y. I've never seen, this is the most lock-in key thing that pretty much in the NBA. I mean, one year I got the NBA's books leaked to me. I could see how much every NBA team spent and made on everything. And I still have never even sniffed, or anybody's even sniffed, the coach's vote for All-Star.
Well, no, I mean, because it leads to De'Aaron Fox comes in as a replacement, right? And then you're thinking, well, where was he on the pecking order of votes? He must have been right there. Where was Michael Porter Jr.? Where was Dylan Brooks? Where were like some of these other names that we've heard? And I've never been around for a long time. I've never seen the coaches' votes. What it is. Never.
There's no penalty for them going, oh yeah, if I played Dylan Brooks for the next month, I'd be like, yep, I voted for Dylan. I don't know. My other peers, I guess they didn't vote for him. Yep, I voted for Michael Porter. Yep, I voted for Brandon Ingram. I can't believe these people that didn't vote for him.
Like I voted for Bill Belichick, right? Sure. We're all
can't prove
it.
Yeah, can't prove it. Okay. Having said that, Kawhi was not voted as an All-Star. And I was stunned. Actually, I wasn't stunned. I was big time eye roll because Kawhi is having probably the best regular season of his career. Now, this is a man who's been
2017 was really, really good.
Vince, take a
Wemby.
look at the numbers, man.
I know.
He's averaging 28 points, and he's toeing the line for 50, 40, 90. He's not quite there, but he's close. All right, let's step away from it's the best. It's close to the best, if not the best. Over the last month especially, he's been top 3 player in the NBA? Top 5?
I'll take it a step further. If the Clippers had not gotten off to such a horrific start to the season, let's just say they played 500 basketball before, or even a step below 500 basketball before getting to this point where they won, 21 out of 27 or whatever it is, we would be talking about Kawhi Leonard as MVP.
I agree.
Yeah.
And he's
been the best player in basketball since he started actually playing.
So I feel like he's missed 13 games. So he's sort of borderline whether he'll make the requisite 65. But there's a whole bunch of guys who are out already, and he's not one of them. Because he did have that knee thing that bothered him for a little bit, but he is. And I'll just point out, Bobby, that he finished last season as well as he's finished any season as a Clipper. Aaron Gordon tipped in a shot with 1/10 of a second left. Otherwise, I don't know. Now, so Kawhi has 31 points in 12 minutes of this game tonight, including a dagger 3 over the top of Karl Towns, which, I rewound it to watch Karl's face when he turned around and saw that go in. So what was that, Bobby? What was that game in Dallas? I think he had a 40-point elimination game in Dallas in the playoffs. I think that game and this night, the 2 best moments for him as a Clipper. Because it's in the Clippers arena, all this storm around the Clippers, and he delivers that performance.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think that was as good of a stretch that we've seen, certainly from Kawhi, in a 12-minute stretch that I probably have ever seen here. It's interesting. You could have, the most interesting part about it too is, the ball in his hands to win the game, and you're thinking like, the best thing for Team Europe is for this thing to go to overtime. Because of all the different
they needed to win by 3.
Yeah, and everything. But and you're right. A guy that was not selected by the coaches has to be a replacement vote in by the commissioner. But yeah, I mean, you were kind of mesmerized, and you knew, like, when we got to the last game, all these guys had nothing left in the tank. Right? Like, there was just like nothing there. But I give him credit, man. It seems like nothing bothers him, right? As you said, there's all this stuff swirling, and we hear it. And when is this going to be resolved? And is it coming soon? And was it him being left off a result of what was going? Everything.
How could it not be?
Everything.
How could it not be?
Yeah, everything that's being talked about. But my goodness gracious, I felt like I was watching like Toronto. I always feel like I was watching a little bit of San Antonio in him, all in that one stretch of minutes there.
It was incredible. Like, you get to see, and I've said this before. Maybe I feel like I've said this on this podcast or another one, but he looks like a cyborg of second three-peat Michael Jordan. Economy of moves, just stronger than everybody. The remaining athleticism he uses to his sort of just his advantage, just to get up enough space. Like, with all of the noise around him, you forget he's an incredible basketball player. Like, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, and we don't think of him that way. We think of him as 2-time Finals MVP and everything else. Oh, and he's quiet. But I think one thing that we have not said, and maybe this is a fault of ours as a media as a whole, you have to be incredibly resilient to come back from the repeated devastating injuries that he's had. Like, you have to legit be able to attack the rehab to come back from the injury that he had with the Spurs, that ankle, that nagging thing. And then he was dragging the leg around in Toronto. Then he had another surgery. Then he tore the ACL. Then he's had another surgery. Like, I count like at least 3 or 4 lower leg procedures that he's had over the course of his career. And that's to the fact when he comes back and he looks like the version of himself that everybody has been wanting to see 6 years ago. Like, it's amazing that he has come back repeatedly to be some version of this type of player. And I don't think anybody expected him, Wendy. Maybe you did when you were on Clippers Island earlier in the preseason, and I made fun of you for being on Clippers Island.
It's been a tough place to be.
No, look, the stock that you have purchased, you held on to, and Wendy, I bow down to you. Like, if they hadn't started the season like this, Wendy, we would look at them as a championship contending team, or at least a party crasher that's going to get to the second round and give somebody a real scare. Because they had that horrendous start, we don't think of them, period. But he's been amazing. The long or the short to say, he's been amazing, and he's been amazingly resilient. And on a human level, to some degree, like, good for him to have this moment. I was this close to voting him for MVP of the All-Star game. I voted Ant because his team won and they blew him out in the last game. But Kawhi had that type of display tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Ant was the correct winner. I mean, they rolled in the championship game. It's very hard to know. By the way, speaking of stock, my Clippers Island stock is down about as much as Microsoft stock. You know, Microsoft stock's done the last 6 months. It's down 23%.
No, he's lost a lot of money. I know Ballmer's lost a lot of money and still has a lot of money left.
40. Lost $40 billion.
That's insane. And he was happy tonight.
Yeah, he was still
happy.
He was thrilled. He lost $40 billion, which is only 23%. That's the other part of that. Hey, I got good news and bad news. What's the bad news? Oh, you lost $40 billion. $40 billion. My God. What the heck could be the good news?
5 expansion teams.
It's only 23% of your holding. Oh, okay. Good. Yes, he was thrilled tonight showing off his arena. And I remember were you in there, Vince, when he was yelling to the crowd on the mic and he reminded everybody this is the place where the 2028 Olympics are going to be, which had a friend of mine from FIBA who was in town over the week to take a look at the venue. It's the first time to be at the venue. They're getting ready for the thinking about the Olympics. But anyway, the crazy thing about this, Bobby, said this before, but the Clippers have waited all these years, 7 years, for Kawhi to be this player. He was showing major, and here's the thing, like, you knock on wood, but you have no idea whether he can remain healthy. But, after waiting all this time, and they had a major hint that he was coming this direction last year, the way he finished last year, he had the most recent surgery was 2 years ago. And so he was out at the beginning of last year and then started playing last year. And then by the end of last season was looking great, continued to do workouts through the summer into June to like prepare his body of what it would be like to have gone through a full playoffs. Comes into this year. It's one of the reasons why I was so high on them. And so it's not like he came out of nowhere. He's been building towards this for the last, 16 months or so. And now is when they pull the plug. Now, there's a chicken and egg thing here because James Harden obviously applied pressure to them to make a decision, like whether they were going to pay him or not. And whatever answer that the Clippers gave obviously was not satisfactory to James because he went through with the trade thing. So I'm not for sure saying that, it was all like an organizational decision, but, they traded him for a player who is indefinitely injured. And then they traded Zubats as well. I wonder if they were held if they could be 100% honest about how they feel about that decision right now. Maybe it'll end up being a good decision. Maybe those draft picks will end up being really valuable. But if I was a Clipper fan, and I know several big-time Clipper fans, season ticket level Clipper fans who, this one guy I talked to who's a very wealthy Clipper fan who's been a supporter for many years. He said that this is perverse. seeing Kawhi be this good, knowing the team can't, probably is not going anywhere. I know Vince said, could they scare somebody? Yeah, they could still scare somebody, but it's a tough hand right now. There's a lot of unknowns about the Clippers, and maybe the Clippers have a better handle on the unknowns than they're willing to admit. I don't know. Maybe they don't, but either way, it's a tough reality.
The writing is kind of on the wall where, and Kawhi has been very upfront about it, where he says, hey, we were the oldest team in the NBA, change, part of the business, a 26-year-old in Garland, 2 future picks that could turn out to be pretty good. Him on an expiring contract will be one of the most fascinating storylines this offseason, along with a lot of others. But he's kind of the guy that's been there, since 2019, and as you said, has hit his stride on the court and health wise, both kind of go hand in hand. And now all of a sudden, we're kind of turning the wheel on this Clipper team that's been built by veterans to now the youth movement. And how does he fit in long term? Because although you could say, a 33 or 34-year-old, when you get to a certain age, I feel like he's getting better right now. And I think what's happened is it's almost like when you put that pretty car in the garage for a long time, you don't put many miles on those legs. Some guys hit their strides at a different age.
That's true. We'll have to, I don't know. We'll have to see how, it's hard to say. I'm not even necessarily second guessing them because they have more information than I do about a lot of things, but it's tough, Vince. It's just talking to Clipper fans that I know. It's a tough reality. It's an ultimate, bittersweet situation.
It's funny. I just looked it up, and I don't have the historical numbers of context, but Kawhi Leonard's only played 25,000 minutes in his career, or right up against it. Right? That feels like an insanely low number for somebody who's been in the league since 2011. To Bobby's point of having low mileage. Now, there's atrophy on the body, but it's low mileage on the body too. And with that, Wendy, the question is not Kawhi as an expiring contract. The question to me is, what do the Clippers decide to do if even they keep Kawhi next year? Like, they have been wanting and openly saying 2027 is going to be the year that we figure stuff out, hit the reset button, whatever it is, right? Lawrence Frank got an extension. Ty Lue is still there. Like, whatever it's going to be will be. The rubber will meet the road when they decide, whatever they decide on Kawhi Leonard at age 35. And you can only, I think, was it, Bobby, you can only get 2-year extensions going into age 36.
Yeah, the over 38 rule. Like Curry's in that boat. There's a bunch of them.
So I'm very fascinated by what the Clippers, if they keep Kawhi and Kawhi still looks like this, do they say, let's re-up for more Kawhi Leonard business? Or does Kawhi Leonard enter the marketplace as a free agent that can play with the Lakers or play somewhere else as a very marketable third piece or second piece or whatever, championship style piece? Some 10 years after the last time he was a last piece to a championship. That is fascinating to me.
I feel like in this situation, you got to raise or fold, Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you either extend him or you trade him.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
I think that's the case with a lot of, that's what happened with like Trae Young, for example. The Hawks folded. Not to imply they that was bad. Like they made a decision. We're not gonna extend him, so we're gonna trade him. That's what happened with Ja Morant. No extension, we're gonna trade him. And with all due respect, I know Giannis gave an interview to Malika, And Giannis said more words about wanting to be a Buck with more qualifiers on him, and pretty fast going to put Giannis on the list of things I'm not going to talk about, to be honest with you, because at least I'm not going to talk about qualified Giannis responses, where he says a powerful statement and then says for now or whatever he said. But Giannis doesn't extend, it's sort of on his, it's razor fold on his side too. Giannis, I seriously, like, Giannis, if you are happy in Milwaukee, God bless you. It would be amazing if you played your whole career there. Sign the extension. I don't really, sign the extension. I promise you, sign the extension, or even announce you're signing the extension. No one will say a word. They'll be gone. All right. So Adam Silver had a very meaty.
That's a word.
Probably one of the most consequential media press conferences he's had, where like there were so many different topics and every single topic was a strong question. Vince, you had a question. Which one was yours? I can't remember.
It was about expansion and relocation.
Right.
And I was asking, do you have to add 2 teams if you're going to, add? And if not adding 2 teams, could you add 1 and relocate another? And I did double back because he only really answered the 2-team question. And he said relocation is not on the table. So that perked some ears up.
Stop. What he said while toasting Giannis was relocation is not on the table right now. Which I don't mean it's on the table, but he said right now. It's one of those Giannis things. I'm not looking to talk about it more. I'm just sort of tying it back to Giannis. A good lawyer like Adam Silver never leaves himself in a corner. Anyway, he was asked about tanking, which we'll talk about in a second. I won't talk about it. You guys can talk about it. Talked about expansion and relocation, which he shot down. I talked about the WNBA negotiations, which are not resolved. Talked about the Clippers investigation, which he said, I haven't come to any decisions about because it's not resolved because they're not running the investigation. Was asked about Giannis being involved with a prediction market and answered it like it was a sports book, when prediction markets and sports books are different things. But we're not going to focus on that here. He didn't. He was asked one direct question and he answered another, which again, that's what a lawyer does. He was asked about NBA Europe, several questions about NBA Europe, which looks like it's going to happen. Looks like it's going to happen. What else he'd asked about? I think that's about it. But anyway, every single one was relevant. Okay, so Vince, you were there. What was some of your big takeaways from what he said?
I think, like you said, when Adam Silver is a lawyer, and he can filibuster with the best of them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times you feel like, short of the All-Star press conference we had in 2022 in Cleveland, which got really, really contentious between Adam and the media. And that's the only time I can recall Adam really sparring with us. But like you said, expansion, relocation, the prediction markets, all that type of stuff, Giannis's investment in it, talking about, the Clippers and where they go and his broad powers as commissioner. He said he was not going to overstep as far as a potential penalty on the Clippers if something were to come from this. Aspirations, investigation, whatever that looks like, who knows when something could come down. But for me, yeah, the biggest stuff was the tanking, Bobby, and the thought of maybe I'll take away, maybe everything's on the table. Maybe I'll take away draft picks. Like I thought he almost sounded exasperated and frustrated that teams or franchises are not looking out for the better business of the league. It's almost like he lives in an idealistic world sometimes when talking to owners and teams and franchises. It's like he's disappointed that they're looking out for themselves as opposed to looking out for the business, the ethics of the league. I think that's what to me came across was like disappointment and frustration as opposed to, hey, dude, you have the power to really change things. And I've been talking to some people since that press conference. They've thrown out about a lot of different suggestions to curb tanking. Some things are a little more radical, but Wendy, they got some issues that they really have to address. And I think they're going to have to take stronger stances than what they've been taking.
Bobby?
I would say the rarity of getting two questions on tanking in the same press conference. He got it the first to lead off and then kind of came back in the middle somewhere. My takeaways from that are that he does not want to be in a position to be big brother, overlooking everything and being in a position to have somebody watch every game and scrutinize why players are being taken out at certain points of the game, why players are not playing in the fourth quarter. And they don't want to do that. He said it's not healthy for the league for that. And listen, it's a slippery slope. It is a slippery slope when you start finding teams and taking away draft picks. Like there's a lot to interpret there. It's not like investigating a fight on the court and finding why Isaiah Stewart elected to run off the bench. That's not it. The ability to remove draft picks, interesting. I was thinking the league has dual authority to dock teams already when we have, whether it be salary cap circumvention or free agent tampering. When you tamper with a player, we've seen that happen with second round picks. But I got the feeling after listening to that, that they have open ears they'll have open ears from the competition committee about doing something and instituting something. I don't know what it will be, but like you, Vince, I've gotten texts, multiple texts from teams on, hey, and really just like, hey, what do you think? This is what I'm thinking. We're thinking about. Yeah, it sounds. Oh, this is a little radical. Like just a little radical here. But I do think, I do think I think they're open to more about how to change. He made that comment. He said, I think he had an economist was, we're talking and they said like, you guys are doing things backwards, right? You're incentivizing teams, right?
Yeah. If you picked a management consultant, would actually be an interesting, someone who didn't know anything about basketball and was brought in to study the league, they would say to a team, you should lose as much as possible to get the best possible single player. And if you're advising the league, a consultant would say, why do you have your teams have an incentive to lose? I mean, it's a paradox that exists in. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please jump into anything I'm wrong. The NBA, basketball in general, is a sport that is disproportionately driven by superstars. So, compared to other sports, one great player is much more valuable in basketball than other team sports because not only is there only 5 guys on the court, but you play both offense and defense. Quarterback is amazing, but only plays half the game, right? Pitcher is amazing, pitches once every 5 days, right? Batter can be, Shohei Ohtani. He can pitch and he can bat, but he only bats 4 or 5 times a game and only pitches once every 5 days, right? Still nowhere near the way a player like, Michael Jordan can affect a game, right? So the NBA, basketball and therefore the NBA is disproportionately driven by superstars, okay? The 30 NBA teams operate voluntarily, maybe not, wholeheartedly, but voluntarily. They all agree. They all play in a socialistic system. They play in a socialist system, right? The weaker teams benefit from the sharing of the richer teams. The teams that are very good and win help subsidize the teams that lose by the rules. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. The decisions that are made by the teams over the last 25 years, and particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, have largely become data-driven, strategy and data-driven. I mean, Bobby, 20 years ago, was there a strategy department in any?
None.
People say analytics, but it's not just analytics. It's strategy. They have strategists, right? And the decisions en masse, the big level treetop decisions almost always are driven with revenue first. So this is the data set that we have. We have disproportionate to stars, socialism, revenue generation is more important than anything. Volume is more important than quality, which is another way of saying revenue guides everything. And the teams themselves have sort of become AI operations more than field operations. So what I would just say to you is, how do you solve tanking in that kind of environment? I don't think you can. I don't think it can be done. I think it can be, you can take the edge off it a little bit. But if you have 30 teams in a socialistic system, I don't think you can do it. And by the way, just in case you think the NBA is really super crazy worried about it, they're going to add 2 more teams, I think. Okay. They can't, they cannot get their arms around tanking. Adam Silver even said, I didn't know this. I would have lost a bet on this, Bobby. Adam Silver said they've tweaked the lottery system 5 times.
Yeah. I didn't know that either.
So they installed the lottery system and then they tweaked it 5 times. Okay. And they can't get their arms around the 30 teams competing with the set of circumstances that I just outlined. There's probably another pillar or 2 that you could add to that I've missed. Feel free to do so on your own. I don't see how you get around 30, and they're thinking about putting it to 32. So just in case, so like I said, I think, because Adam basically said, I'm mad about it, but said I don't know what to do about it.
Don't you think too, guys, like we're kind of hit like a little bit of a perfect storm though, with how much this draft is being talked about, B, the 2 teams having protections on picks that they do not want to convey, right? Whether it be Utah, that would go to Oklahoma City outside top 8, the Wizards, the same thing outside the top 8 here. And then the other thing is that we've seen it more come to life in late January, early February here. Like I said it on NBA Today on Friday, and we can talk about Utah, and it's not Utah. It's not Utah. It was Toronto last year, and it was other teams before that, and it was all these teams. And I said, listen, I am part of I raised my hand on TV, like I was under oath. I said, I am part of the problem. I was on the show a week ago or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Giannis and why in the best interest of Milwaukee, they should get a lottery pick and him not play the rest of the season here, because that's the best interest of them.
Isn't that the pick protection and what you're talking about were the best thing for Milwaukee to do?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you file that under strategy?
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying.
What I had it, and this wasn't just me talking. This wasn't just a Bobby Marks saying last Tuesday. The issue that teams have had was the ability to kind of, I guess, manipulate the game, right? Whether it be pulling guys, starting guys, resting guys, end of game and stuff like that. That was the crux of some of the things that we're saying. But it's as people have pointed out, listen, Toronto did it last year. We didn't hear boo from them. We didn't hear boo from the league at all from that. There have been situations before here, and now all of a sudden, here comes Utah. What happened in Orlando, and then they win in Miami, and Ryan Smith saying, "Wait a minute, we won that game, so I'm going to pay a $500,000 fine for a game I won." What in what world does that make sense?
Right, the league rejected that
premise. Yeah.
The league also completely ignored Jaren Jackson being put down for the season with knee surgery because they cited Jaren Jackson not playing in fourth quarters as a reason for fining them. The fact that 3 or 4 hours earlier they put out the Jaren Jackson press release on the knee surgery did not slow the league down. So whether they won or lost the game, like that's a very good defense. We won the game you're accusing us of tanking in, but the league already is ignoring the fact that they're shutting a guy down with surgery. So they don't care whether you won or lost the game. They're more focused on the overall process.
You can't handle the truth, Wendy. That's apparently what they're, did you order the code red? You damn right I did. Yes, they did. They ordered the code red.
And you know what? You're damn right, and it's worth it if I'm going to get AJ DeBancer, Darren Peterson, or one of these young guards there, and we're going to be, instead of the worst team in the NBA next year, we're going to be competing in the top 6. It'll be listen, and I said that, and that's I think that where Ryan got mad at me was that I said, and this wasn't just I was talking to a couple of teams about it. He said, listen, teams will write a blank check to when you're a billionaire, you will write a blank check for the ability to draft in the top 3 or draft 4 because those players are transformational and everything. Like I had a team text me and Perk went crazy on me not on me, but on the team and said, listen, I'd got here. What is it? 7 million, 8 million? How much are going to cost, for us to we'll pay the fine. Now, listen, when you come out and say, we're going to start taking draft picks and we're going to start taking resources away. Now then the strategy that becomes something else.
Well, yeah, Adam Silver was rattling the saber.
Yeah.
Throughout that, he didn't have a solution, but he did have a saber to rattle, which was the whole point of the fine.
Wendy, when I'm president, you know what I'm going to do, Wendy? When I am president, no, Jackson, we're not going to do an end of season tournament with all the lottery teams. We're not doing that.
That was one thing that Shams reported the other day
that's been thrown about in competition committee meetings.
Do I want to get in trouble with the league here?
Uh-oh.
I'm going to be
Don't
sick.
get in trouble. Hear my suggestion, and then you tell, and then you decide. Go ahead and think about it. Think about it. I'll give you some time. I'll do an Adam Silver filibuster here. When I'm president, the lottery will be set. The lottery order, Bobby Marks, will be set at midseason. That doesn't stop tanking. It won't. It will stop tanking on the back end of seasons. And if you say, Vinny, what happens if, the Clippers, they start off 6-30 and then they have a great turnaround and they make the playoffs? Well, guess what? They're out of the lottery. And the next best team or next worst team replaces them in the odds of whatever the ping pong ball needs to be. So you can't play yourself into better position. Somebody else can play you into better position, but you can't. And secondarily, you can't get a top 4 pick 2 years in a row.
That's one of the better things I've seen. I've gotten like 8 things from different teams. That's one of the better things I've heard.
I didn't get that from a team. Those are my suggestions. When I'm the next black president, those are the 2 things that I'm going to attack. Campaign stump. That's my stumping speech, Wendy. So go ahead and get yourself in trouble with the league.
No, I'm just, I just going to say the league has only added games in the last decade. Their schedule adjustment in the last decade has only added games. They've added them. So Sham's, talking about a concept where the lottery teams would play off. Like, I'm sure they like that.
What the hell would you do? My thing is, when the hell would you do that? Like your television inventory is already stretched out. The season is already stretched out. So you're going to have lottery teams playing against each other while the big boys are actually playing in real life playoff games. That's what you're going to do?
I'm not getting the call. I'm not going to get the call.
Okay. All right. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Not going to do it. That's interesting. I would just say that I'll go back to the thing is that it's a strategy-driven socialistic league. So wherever the team is incentivized to lose, teams will lose. And if that means losing in October, November instead of March and April, then they'll just lose in October, November. Now you may say, well, you're better off losing October, November. It's less damaging to your product than it is in March and April. Listen, that might be a trade-off they're willing to do. But as long as you incentivize losing, teams will lose. And if you add 2 more teams to it, there'll be even more of a basket of non-contenders who will find that incentive.
I thought you was going to say something else, Wendy. When you said basket, I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to do that. I may be a little loopy. I'm not on cold medication yet. It'll be soon. All right. This ended up being a sort of a rich topic from the weekend. I really thought this was going to be a 0 weekend, and I'd like to applaud the NBA for it. Now, we didn't talk about Saturday night.
No need to.
If Vince, if you ever competed in an All-Star Saturday night event, would you come onto the court showing off your 6-pack? Would that be the first?
If I had a 6-pack, for one, if I had a 6-pack,
it was impressive.
If I had a 6-pack, you would never see me with a shirt on ever. So All-Star Saturday night would not be any different than a random Tuesday.
Right.
All right.
It's an impressive physique. I'll give you that. Also, I hope Jace Richardson is okay.
Yeah, he showed the dunk that he was trying to do. Like he showed it on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. And it would have brought
That's a new thing. Like Mac McClung provided all the dunks he would have done.
Yeah.
Like I think that's where we're headed. We'll just AI the dunks. Just AI them.
Don't say that. Oh, that's the other thing that Adam talked about was AI. Like, Adam, are you trying to kill us all? Do you want press conferences to be nothing but robots? Do you want to? I mean, we can have a commissioner, an AI commissioner. Like, do you want to? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, it's no less for you to say we could have an AI commissioner when he said that we're going to have AI broadcasters. I mean, like, why stop at the broadcasters? Why not have an AI commissioner? Why not have AI referees? Why not have AI coaches? Why not have AI players? Why not the whole thing just be one giant simulation? Why not?
I think it's stupid. Like, this is when people say that Adam is kind of, too loopy with his ideas. Sometimes I think he loses sight of what basketball is at its height. Like, when this is a shared experience between players and fans and we're all invested, whether it's media or fans, whatever reason you're invested, it's a community. When you siphon these things off, you lose the sense of community. You lose the sense of what makes this thing special. If we're watching one broadcast and someone's watching another broadcast, like, how can we communicate? How can we create a community if everybody is in their own silo? That does not help your game.
That's all. You're making a fine point. I honestly think he had just been to the Tech Summit, which the NBA does every year. And, Am
I getting upset for no reason?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get upset.
Sorry.
About it. So anyway, I would say the All-Star Weekend, I came in with very low expectations, and those were massively exceeded. So now the expectations will rise next year, and we'll see whether they can do that. So I have to declare it a success. All right. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Vince, for running over to the hotel after getting out of the Intuit. Thank you for your coverage this weekend. So me and the Tims didn't have to do it. Thank you, Bobby. I hope I hope the Academy went well this last week.
What? The sports business classroom was a tremendous success. And here is the power of social media, Brian. Vince. We had an expansion draft. Okay. At the end, that was their project. We broke up teams. We had an expansion draft. They had to brand their team. They had to put their logo. They had to do all this great stuff and pick a team. And so I figured, you know what? Let me show their work on social media. So on Friday, when they were presenting, I was taking pictures and I was putting it on social media. And 2 million views later, you know what's trending on Twitter? An expansion draft. And I think I would say the majority of those people actually probably thought it was real, that was probably coming from the NBA here. And as I told my students, here's your lesson about social media. Don't read the comments. Enjoy what you put out there. Don't read the comments.
That's for you, Vince. Don't read the comments. I have Jackson read them for me.
I try to stay away, but sometimes they pull me back in.
Listen. I went down the rabbit hole a little bit on Saturday. I'm getting online getting
Clearly.
a donut, and I said I want to let me just take a little peek about my friends in Salt Lake City, what they're saying about me here. Ooh, let's pull the curtain back.
Oh boy. It's all in good fun. All right. Thank you to Mark, Jackson, and Devon, our producers. Thank you to Vince and Bobby. Thank you for listening and watching Hoop Collective. I have no idea whether I'll have a voice on Wednesday. Come back and find out.